Imagine you're walking past a pond and you see a child drowning. No one else is around and the water is shallow, about waist deep. Do you jump in and save the child? I would imagine that most of you would give a resounding yes. You save the child, you jump in without hesitation, and in the process, you dirty your shoes or maybe the rest of your outfit. But you don't care because a child's life is worth infinitely more than your wet socks. Now, I also have to ask, what's the real difference between this child dying in the pond and a child dying across the world? If we have the power to help in both cases, should we? This simple yet damning hypothetical scenario from philosopher Peter Singer presents to us an essential question about the morality of helping others. Singer argues that if we would help the child in the pond, we ought to feel equally compelled to help the children that we can't see, children affected by poverty, preventable disease, and a lack of basic resources. Ultimately, Singer's idea confronts us in that our intuitions are incorrect as to how we go about helping others. And before we go into our essential question, should physical distance change our moral decision-making? I think we need to take a step back. So when we think about giving, and philanthropy more specifically, what comes to mind? Or rather, who comes to mind? For many, it's people like Ruth Gottsman, the widow of a Wall Street financier who donated $1 billion to help eliminate tuition at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. We think of the Bill Gateses and the Oprah Winfreys of the world, whose vast fortunes fund enormous projects and solve global problems. But what if I told you that philanthropy isn't just for the rich or the famous? What if I told you that each one of us has the potential and perhaps even the responsibility to be a philanthropist? Now, this may sound ambitious or even a little unrealistic. After all, what could a normal person's time or small efforts really accomplish? But this is precisely the mindset that I want to challenge. Over the past few years, I've come to realize that philanthropy is less about wealth and more about intent. It's about leveraging what we do have, whether that's our skills, our knowledge, or even our empathy, to create a meaningful impact. I believe that embracing this broader definition of philanthropy allows us to transform both our lives and our communities in ways that traditional, one-dimensional views of philanthropy often overlook. Now, let's return to our initial scenario, which is essentially a modified version of the trolley problem. You pull the lever and you save a child, in the process covering yourself with mud. It seems like the obvious choice, and I'm sure many of you are thinking right now that you would do the same. And perhaps it's even irrational, or maybe even immoral or evil to not do so. But before we begin patting ourselves on the back, I think we should take a look at this. According to UNICEF, in 2022, upwards of 5 million children died before they reached their 5th birthday. This roughly translates to about 13,000 children dying every single day. And although this number has been steadily decreasing year over year, 13,000 children is not anything to look over. Additionally, according to the Against Malaria Foundation, it costs just $2 to purchase a net that protects a family against malaria, a disease that kills hundreds of thousands of people every year, primarily in impoverished countries. Now, in the United States, $2 isn't even a cup of coffee. And when we begin to think about how little $2 really is, I think we're led ourselves to ask, what's the real difference between that $2 and saving that child in the pond? I think it's important to understand why this is. Why don't we act on the drowning child analogy every day? Psychologists call this the identifiable victim effect. We're far more likely to jump in and help when we see a single struggling individual, as opposed to hearing statistics of millions in need. In general, we're not designed to process these numbers. They simply overwhelm us, and we often think to ourselves, what can I really do to make a difference? And I think it's important to address this in two key ways. First is a story described by a man in Ghana to researchers at the World Bank. This young boy this morning died of measles, and everybody knows that if he were able to go to the hospital and receive adequate treatment, he most likely would have survived. But his parents had no money, and so he died a slow and painful death, not of measles, but out of poverty. It's very important to realize the fact that behind each number, there is a very real tragedy occurring. We can also try to flip our thinking about how we view our actions and how they affect others. If you save a child from the pond, does that matter to them? Absolutely. If your $2 donation helps provide clean drinking water for a child across the world, enabling them to survive, does that matter to them? Also, absolutely. It may be more difficult to reconcile with intuitively, considering that they're thousands of miles away. There may be some extra steps in between, but the moral outcome is exactly the same. Ultimately, philanthropy requires a deep intuition regarding how we go about helping others and solving our problems. And a common excuse that people have when deciding not to engage in philanthropy is that I don't have enough to give. But effective altruism, an idea sparked by Peter Singer's philosophy, proves to us that we don't need abundant wealth to give meaningfully. Just $2 can make the difference between somebody's survival and somebody dying. Philanthropy, as it's typically described, is in form of charitable giving. And here's an alarming statistic. According to Indiana University's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, total charitable giving in the United States fell by over 10% last year. Now, this may sound like a relatively insignificant number, but the consequences of this decline are severe. What this means for us is less support for community organizations, less resources for those in need, and ultimately a less connected society. More people than ever are feeling less empowered to give or able to give to others. And I believe that a large part of this is that we often don't realize how much of an impact we can make. As individuals pull back from giving, it becomes even more crucial for us to realize the contributions that we can all make towards a larger cause. Philanthropy, as it's typically portrayed, feels exclusive. But when we begin to break down the walls around it, we can realize that philanthropy is not some lofty, exclusive endeavor. It can be as simple as volunteering at your local shelter, or spending some time to listen to your friend, or donating that $2. These small, everyday acts contribute to a larger culture of generosity that strengthens our communities in profound ways. Imagine we all began to view ourselves as philanthropists, each of us contributing what we can, and ensuring that we don't just admire the grand gestures of the ultra-wealthy, but rather contribute in this everyday type of giving. This type of grassroots, everyday giving is incredibly essential, especially in a world that is more disconnected than ever. Collective philanthropy often provides a sense of fulfillment and also creates networks of shared purpose. According to a study by the Greater Good Science Center at the University of California, Berkeley, students and individuals who reported giving money to others or giving to others in alternative means, such as time or volunteering, reported being happier than those who don't. And a global survey of 136 countries reports that those who give to others often are happier and lead better lives than those who don't, even after controlling for income and other confounding variables. As it turns out, giving does really lead to a better life, or at the very least, a happier one. And we realize that it is within our nature to help and uplift each other. And by tapping into this natural inclination, we foster happiness, resilience, and growth within ourselves and in others. The biggest barrier to philanthropy isn't the wealth. It's the belief that the difference is only made at the very top. It's the belief that I can't make a difference, but you do, and you already do. Every day, with the ideas that you support, the people that you uplift, and the resources that you share, you are contributing and shaping a culture around you. The next time you think about giving, don't wait for millions. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Start where you are and start where you can. Imagine this, just 100 people, each giving just $10 can save 500 lives from malaria. These seemingly small, insignificant contributions quickly add up to create waves of positive change that strongly benefit not only ourselves, but those around us. I want to leave off with this. It is essential for us to realize that philanthropy is not just an endeavor for those who are ultra wealthy or ultra famous. Each of these small actions contributes to something much greater than ourselves. And it's important to realize that our intuitions may be wrong about how we decide to help others. And again, let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. Ultimately, when you decide to give, don't wait. And realize that you, and yes, you, can be a philanthropist. Thank you.